Okay, sit yourself on your left. Find a good cross-leg position. Feel that you're sitting evenly. So that might take a few attempts. And then hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest and draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Just spend a few moments just listening to the sound of the breath. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. Look at something that doesn't move. Let your eyes settle on something on the floor about 6 feet away from where you're sitting. And then release your knees, hold on to the hands, press the palms into Namaste. Lengthen from the armpits into the elbows and lift up into the chest, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. And with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. And then just focus on the inhalation and the exhalation. Just listen to the sound of the breath. And then with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Lift your chest up to meet your chin. And then spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. And then gently release the backs of your hands down to your knees. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Just take some deep inhalations and deep exhalations. Just feel your energy. Feel the energy through connecting with the breath. But just feel your level of energy right at this moment. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across, your ribs across, your shoulders across. Continue to take deep inhalations and use the exhalations to intensify the turn. Come back to the center. Hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, drive your chest up towards the ceiling. Take a deep inhalation. And then turn to the left with the exhalation. And then come back to the center. We're just going to do a little bit of alternate nostril breathing, just to kind of bring energy into the brain. Just again, just hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, and just observe maybe how just from that gentle, simple turn, your energy feels slightly different. So remember, alternate nostril breathing. You breathe out and then in through one nostril, and then you breathe out and then in through the other nostril, and then out and in. So you always kind of swap, and it's an exhalation first. So just rest your hand on your forehead, and you can cover the right nostril with your thumb and your left nostril with your ring finger. So you just alternate. So just some normal breaths to start off with. Remember to make the breath, the alternate nostril breathing breath, forceful. So take a deep inhalation, cover the right nostril, and then exhale and inhale through the left. And then swap. And then continue until you've done 10. And then when you've done your 10, just release your nose and then just come back to normal breathing. Take a deep inhalation and a deep exhalation. And then another deep inhalation. And then again, turn to the right. Just notice if there is any difference in your focus on the interior body. Come back to the center. Just lift up into the chest. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the left. Just breathe in evenly, but keeping the in-breath deep, filling all the way up to the top of the lungs. Try and make that in-breath non-resistant. And use the out-breath to move more deeply into the pose. And then come back to the center. To get yourself a belt and then stretch your legs out in front. So you extend your legs away and then put the belt around your feet. You can have your feet hip width apart to start off with. And then just really feel that you're sitting right on the seat bone. So just adjust the buttock flesh if you need to. Push the feet really firmly into the belt. And then feel that you can scoop the abdomen up to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, drawing the shoulders down away from your ears. So pushing your feet really firmly into the belt. Push your feet into the belt and then try and separate the legs. So you push into the belt. So push the feet into the belt and try and separate the legs. Try and push the outer legs, so the inner legs towards the outer legs. Keep lifting up into the chest, really activating those legs. So pushing them into the belt, pulling the belt towards you to keep the chest lifted, but try and push outwards with the feet, so as though the legs could separate. Just breathing evenly and deeply. And then if there's no problem with your back, just come forwards just a little, but maintaining that lift of the front chest. Pushing the feet into the belt, pushing the feet into the belt away from the body and out to the side. Gives you space in the hips. So lift up and come forward just a little at a time, or each time just lifting the abdomen to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, pushing the feet into the belt and hitting the feet outwards into the belt. And as you really activate your legs, so if you can find your feet, then do, but then you lose that, it's more difficult to push the feet kind of that way. So just see if you can really try and press the hands apart with the feet, but then push them together and feel that space in the hip opening up, lifting up into the chest. Just breathe in evenly and deeply, listening to the breath. And then gently come back to the center and then bring the feet into padottanasana. So especially when you're sitting on a lift, traditionally we kind of reach around the toes or get hold of the big toes. But when you're sitting on a lift, sometimes that makes you feel like you're just going to drop your chest. So slide a belt underneath your feet, push the feet into the belt, and then lift up into the chest. So give yourself enough belt so that you can really focus on broadening and lifting and opening the chest. Focusing on inhalations and exhalations, listening to the breath. Getting the lungs from the bottom to the top, emptying them from the top to the bottom. Just making space for the breath. As long as there are no heart conditions or high blood pressure, you can hold the breath at the top of the breath just for a second or two, but without any grip. It's just a suspension where you allow the breath to permeate into the blood. And then just release the legs, just get hold of the knees, stretch the legs out in front, just come into tadasana. You can have the feet apart. And then turn to the right side. As you turn, try not to let the left leg grow longer than the right leg. So as you turn, maintain the action of the legs. Maintain the action of the breath. Come back to the center, lift up into the chest, and then turn again to the left. And then come back to the center. Just come back onto your, just come onto your knees. And just sit back on your heels for a moment. Just wriggle into the into the inner heels, and then lift up into the chest. Just feel how your energy has already changed. Just breathe evenly, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And then come onto all fours. Have your little fingers on the edge of the mat, stretch the thumbs towards each other, and then turn your toes under. And then come up into dog down. So in dog down, maintain the action of the breath. So don't necessarily hold the breath, but just maintain that action of filling the lungs from the bottom to the top and emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. Activate the legs by tightening the kneecaps, hitting the fronts of the thighs firmly into the backs of the thighs, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, lifting the seat bones, feeling that the palms of the hands are flat into the floor, not just allowing the heel of the hand to bear the weight of the arms. Focus on the breath. Step your feet forward, come up into a standing position, and then just get some blocks for your hands for half uttanasana. Have your feet as wide apart as the mat, turning your toes inwards. Lift up into the chest, activate the kneecaps, activate the thighs, and raise your arms up. Have your arms wide to start off with, just to welcome in the energy of the sky. And then keep the kneecaps tightened as you hinge at the hips, gliding forwards, and then just releasing your arms so that the hands come onto the blocks beyond fingertips. So at first, the body probably wants to do this a little, just to kind of bend the knees and to round the back. But that's not going to give us any energy. So we tighten the kneecaps. We draw the fronts of the knees through to the backs of the knees. We turn the fronts of the thighs in and lift the fronts of the thighs up towards the top of the leg. So turning the fronts of the thighs in means that you can broaden the backs of the thighs. And the more that you broaden the backs of the thighs, the more you can lift the seat bones up away from the backs of the legs. And the more you can lift the seat bones away from the backs of the legs, the more you can lengthen into the spine. So the shoulder blade region draws inwards. So just breathe into the pose. Not holding the breath anymore, just focusing on that deep inhalation, bringing in energy into the body. If you can go down any lower, then do go onto the lower blocks. If you reach the floor, then come down onto the floor, but not at the expense of losing the action of the legs, of the hips, or of the spine. So we keep the chin and the chest extending away from the legs. If you can bend your elbows out to the side, reach around the backs of the heels, but be cautious of coming down if you've got a dodgy back. So just stay with the blocks or with whatever lift that you're using. Just stamping the heels down into the floor, lifting the seat bones up to the ceiling. Just refreshing the action of the legs when, just like you're refreshing the breath. Can you breathe into the legs? Feel that you're breathing into the limbs. So the in-breath overflows from the top of the lungs and fills the arms and the torso and the legs with energy. Okay, release your hands, come back into half uttanasana. And then bring your hands onto your hips, bend your knees on the way up if you need to, and then come back up into tadasana. So just be in tadasana, inner edge of the feet together. Just lift up into the chest, drawing the shoulders down, activating the legs. Just feel how energy has changed. Just listen to the sound of the breath. And then bring your arms out nice and wide into the chest, and then step or jump your feet apart. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out, and then come down into trikonasana. Just check your alignment. Look down, look at it, see if the head is over the foot. If it's not, then lift the chest more, squeeze the front leg buttock bone forwards. Activate that back leg so that it's really pressing deeply into the floor. Turn the chest up to face the ceiling, look up. Reach up with the top hand, come back to the center, swap the feet around. Activate those legs. And then come over to the other side. So don't forget about that back leg. Keep that back leg really firm as the front leg. Push the back heel firmly into the floor so that you can extend into the spine. And reach up, come back to the center, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump the feet back together, and then just come back into tadasana. So inner edge of the feet together, just lift up into the chest. Just breathing evenly and deeply. Just stretch the arms behind you and then interlock your fingers behind your back. So this can be quite strong if you've got a bad back. If you've got a bad back, then instead of clasping the arms behind you, you can have your hands on your hips and draw your elbows towards each other. So we're going to lift up into the chest. Lengthening the arms behind us, squeezing the shoulder blades together. If you're holding onto your hips, then just draw the elbows together, draw the shoulder blades together. So the feet are together in uttanasana, and the chest is lifting. We're drawing the shoulder blades towards each other, so we really broaden and open the front chest. Just spend a little time taking deep inhalations, breathing into the top of the lungs. Just like we were doing with the feet, push the feet into the floor and try and almost separate the feet away from each other. Try and separate the arms apart, and then try and lengthen the arms away from the back. Working with the breath, squeezing the shoulder blades together. And then remember which interlock of the fingers that you were doing, and then gently release. So just release. Just feel the energy in the arms. The arms almost want to have a life of their own, don't they? They want to kind of rise up towards the ceiling. So stretch your arms forwards and then raise your arms up in urdhva hastasana, lengthening up into the little finger side, palms facing each other, thumbs stretching towards the back of the room. Keep breathing from the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom with the out breath. It's the pranic breath. Just focusing on bringing in energy. And then release your arms, and then stretch your arms behind you, and then interlock your fingers the wrong way. So it feels a bit weird. And then again, just stretch, squeeze the shoulder blades together, broaden the front of the chest, and then lengthen your arms behind you. Fill in from the bottom to the top. Emptying from the top to the bottom. See if you can stretch your arms away, squeezing the shoulder blades together really firmly. Drawing the trapezius muscle down the back, So the trapezius muscle is the one that's over the shoulder blade. So drawing that muscle down the back. So push your feet into the floor as though you can try and separate them. Try and pull the arms apart. The more you pull the arms apart, the more you can stretch your arms behind you. Okay, and then release. And again, just be in tadasana, just observe that energy lengthening to the fingertips. Turn the palms all the way out. Maybe your arms feel really light. Turn the palms all the way out. Broaden the chest. Just continue to breathe from the bottom of the lungs to the top. And then raise your arms up. Bring your feet hip width apart and then hook the thumb into the crease of the elbow. Wrap your fingers around your elbows, have your heels apart, and then come forwards. Hinge at the hip. Just stay, bring your elbows onto something, onto a lift if you've got back problems, or if not, then just come all the way down. And again, breathe into the legs. So let the energy of the breath radiate out from the lungs. So rather than really focusing on the upward action of the in-breath, breathe in and draw that breath down into the legs. And just feel how the skin and the flesh and the muscle becomes enlivened by the breath. And then just gently release your hands down to the floor, bring your hands into your hips, and then come up into a standing position. Just come back into tadasana. Just observe how your energy has changed. Bring your arms out nice and wide, in towards the chest, and then step or jump nice and wide. Bring your heels in line with the back edge of your mat so that you know that they're in line for prasarita, padottanasana. Have your hands on your hips, lift up into the chest. Wing the elbows together so that you really broaden the front chest. You gather the shoulder blades together and then hinge at the hips. And then reach down, find the floor. So just like we were doing in uttanasana, keep those legs really deeply activated. Lifting out of the feet into the shins, into the knees, into the thighs, into the hips. You can use blocks under your hands or a chair if you need to. Just breathe into the legs. Extend the chin and the chest away. Turn the fronts of the thighs in so the backs of the thighs can broaden out. You can lift the seat bones and then project into the chin and the chest. And then if you can, bring your head down onto the floor. If your head isn't near the floor, then you can put a block under your head, or you can just stay at that first stage. So with your head on the ground, then, or on the block, then breathe into the legs. If you can reach around the outsides of the ankles. Just breathe into the chest, into the legs, into the arms, into the head. Okay, release your hands. Bring your hands back underneath your shoulders. Come back to the halfway point. And then bring the heels of the hands down, bend your knees, and then step or jump your feet back together. And then just come up into tadasana. And then raise your arms up to the ceiling, urdhva hastasana. And then release. And then come down onto the floor and into supta baddha. So coming down into supta baddha, just rest your hands on your lower ribs. Just take some deep inhalations, fill in the lungs, but overflowing into the shoulders, into the arms, into the head, into the torso, into the legs. And if there's no problem with high blood pressure or heart conditions, then you can hold the breath at the top of the in-breath just for a second or two, just to allow the body to absorb more of the energy within the lungs. Excuse me. Just using the power of the breath to energize the physical body. Okay, and then just gently draw your knees together. Have your knees together, your feet apart for a moment, just to let the hips recover. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from top to bottom, from side to side. Just a gentle massage on the spine. And then get hold of the lower shins and then bring the feet as close into the body as you can. And then we're going to do setubandha. So if you're not doing setubandha today, you can go back into supta konasana if you prefer. Otherwise, lift the seat bones up and then gather the shoulder blades together, come right up onto the tops of the shoulders. It gives you loads more space in the chest and gives you much better lift. And then put the block in the tailbone, lower sacrum area. And then hold on to the sides of the mat. Gather the shoulder blades together a little more, like you did when you had your hands behind your back. And then if you can straighten one leg. See how that feels. Bring it back, straighten the other. See how that feels. And if that feels okay in your back, then extend the legs away, but keep the heels in good contact with the floor. Push the heels away. Have the toes pointing directly to 12 o'clock rather than just letting them fall apart. So turn the fronts of the thighs inwards. And just breathe. Breathe into the legs. Again, as long as there's no heart conditions or blood pressure issues, just hold the breath at the top of the in-breath. Just for a second or two, just to allow the body to absorb more of the energy of the breath. And then just bring your feet back to close to the block. And then just lift yourself up off the floor, even if it means coming up onto your tiptoes in order to do it. Lift yourself up and then move the block out of the way, and then just gently guide yourself back down onto the floor. Just pull your knees in towards your chest. Have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just easing out any kinks in the spine. And then when your back has recovered, just roll onto your right side, just sit yourself up, and then just come into cross legs for a moment. Hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest. Just observe difference in your energy. So maybe the energy feels a little more effortless. Just the lightness from within. Deep inhalation, and then turn to the right side. Just being sure to keep the seat bones level in terms of weight. So maintain position of the torso between the two hips. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees. Lift up into the chest. And then turn to the left. And then gently come back to the center. Good. Get your blanket for your head. If you want a bolster for underneath your knees, because we work quite strongly in the back, so a bolster underneath your knees will just help you to relax in the lumbar spine. If you haven't got a bolster, you can just put some cushions underneath the backs of your knees, and then just allow yourself to release into the floor. If you're wearing glasses, it's nice to just take them off. And then allow yourself to release into the floor. Just, even though we're using a bolster, make sure you're in a good straight line, because then you will be able to relax. Allow the physical body to consciously release into the floor. If you allow the body to become still, if you allow the muscles of the arms and the legs to unhook, then you'll feel perhaps your energetic body rise into the top of the skin. Distribute that feeling of lightness evenly throughout the body using the in-breath and the out-breath. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. And when you're ready to disturb yourself, just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, and then bend your knees. Bring your feet onto the bolster. Have the feet together, the knees apart. The feet apart, the knees together. Just allow your back to rest into the floor. And then gently roll onto your right side. And then stretch out the top leg, come back up into a seated position, just a final cross legs with your hands in Namaste, just a final spinal lift. And then draw your in-breath down into the abdomen. Conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice. This morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and twists and the inversions bring to the body and to the mind, that lightness within the limbs. And with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside. And then radiate some of that positive energy out into the world. And then very gently release the backs of your hands down towards your knees. Palms are facing upwards. Just bring the backs of the palms onto your hands and then raise your head. Allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel as though you have really lifted your energy, giving yourself some good lightness from the inside and some good energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.